And we're back. Mark McGwire came to Washington this very weekend for some exhibition baseball. We sat down and talked about his goals on and off the field. Mark McGwire, welcome to Meet the Press.
Thanks.
The 99 season is upon us. What are your goals?
Well, I have my own personal goals that I like to keep to myself. But, I mean, obviously every player wants to win. I mean, it's the most difficult thing to do in all sports is to play 162 games and come out on top and try to go to the playoffs in the World Series. And that's something that I haven't had that feeling in quite some time, so I'd love to do it, especially the great city of St. Louis.
You won a World Series when you were with Oakland.
Right.
You won the home run batting title. What do you want this year?
Well, I just want to have a nice year. A nice year where, you know, I mean, what happened last year might never, ever happen in our lifetime ever again. And for people to expect that's unrealistic, just a nice year. I think my expectations of hitting 50 or more are right there.
That'd be 4 years in a row.
Right. But I expect that out of myself. I mean, that's an obvious goal. But winning is the most important thing.
Manager Tony La Russa said you could hit 75. Carlos Viagra said you could hit 80.
Yeah.
Easy for them to
play Nerf ball. Yeah. They're not my body. They don't have to deal with what goes on outside of that.
When Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs, he also hit 363. How hard is that?
It's pretty hard. I mean, I had 299, and it's not easy doing what we're doing. I know people out there probably thought that it looked easy, but it's not, because you only can name maybe a half a dozen guys that hit between 40 and 50 home runs a year consistently. It just doesn't happen. So it's not easy what we do.
When you point up there and say the guy upstairs,
right,
how much of your ability is God-given as opposed to a skill that you've learned and trained?
Well, I think it's all God-given. I would probably say 90% of it's all God-given, and then the other 10% I had to work on myself. I think you're put on this earth for a reason and a purpose. There was some years I was floating around trying to figure out what I was doing here, but I think I found out, and I'm sitting here talking to you.
September 8, 1998. I want to show you a picture of what happened on that day.
First pitch, rocket deep toward left. He did it! He did it! He did it! He did it!
Remember what you said to Matt?
I did it.
And what did he say back?
He didn't say anything. He's not much of a communicator verbally, but just by his expressions in his face and his eyes says it all.
I ran that picture on Meet the Press a few days after you did it because I thought it was such an important symbol of a father-son relationship. Are you aware of that when you transmitted those kinds of emotions?
Now I am. Back then, when I was doing it, I was just doing it because I was lucky enough to have my son out on the field and being a bat boy in a historical moment. But now that I see, you know, baseball is America's pastime. It's a father and son going to the ballpark together, having a hot dog and Coke and watching a ball game. And last year, I think we brought that back. And there were so many fathers and sons going to the game and excited. And they got to see my son out there, so it was really neat.
When a guy that's your size scoops the kid up and gives him a kiss right on the lips, that's a pretty important statement.
Yeah, but that's just the love of a father to a son. I mean, there's millions of people that probably wish they were in that position, and so they do the same thing, and they're right. I mean, I was just being who I am right there.
Do you accept the fact that you are a role model to millions of kids?
Yeah, I have. It's one of those things that you just sort of adapted. I had to adapt to. It's not easy. You know, I'm not a perfect person. There's nobody on this earth who's a perfect person. But you know what? If you live with common sense and realistic about things, I think everything will be okay.
Let me show you some more footage. This was on September 27th, the final game of your season.
First and third, 2 out. Field! Number 70! How much more can you give us, Big Mac?
How much more can you give us, Big Mac?
Well, at that point, none. That was my last at bat. I was like going, geez. I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's just, I don't even know if it's storybook. I mean, because how could you possibly ever think about hitting 70 home runs in the big leagues? I mean, for 37 years, people have been trying to hit 62. I hit 70. Sammy hits 66. it's just one of those things that you just can't imagine. How can you ever dream about that? But you know what? Now we've set something where people can dream about it. So maybe someday somebody will break it.
Do you think that people's expectations now are such that you are supposed to hit a home run every time you go up to bat?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what I hear. I hear all the time. You know, it's not easy. It's all about getting a pitch to hit. You know, and I'll go weeks at a time where I might only see half a dozen balls to really drive. Doesn't mean I'm going to hit them out of the ballpark. You know, the pitchers are out there. They get paid a lot of money to get me out. They weren't given enough credit last year. You know, people talked all about home runs, and there's times that I went through some lulls where I didn't home runs, and they were saying, "What's wrong with me?" Well, there's nothing wrong with me. There's a guy on the mound making great pitches on me and getting me out, and there's a lot of credit to those pitchers.
When Hank Aaron was closing in on Babe Ruth's all-time record, 714, he said he was concerned about his teammates because after the game, the press would flock around him. And one of his buddies would go 4 for 4 or pitch a 2-hitter, but they all wanted to talk to Henry Aaron. They all wanted to talk to Mark McGwire. Are you afraid of alienating your teammates?
Well, I thought I was doing a great job last year. I was, you know, there's times I didn't do anything during a game, and somebody would go 4 for 4. Somebody pitch a great game, and they'd want to come talk to me, and I'm like, there's somebody else out. I didn't do anything today. But you know what? It comes down to those editors don't want to talk to somebody like that. You know, they want to talk about me, good or bad, and it's unfortunate. And there's guys on our team that had great years last year that I wish and I pushed that they got more publicity than I did.
As you look at all the things you accomplished, what is the most important thing you believe you've achieved in baseball?
I've achieved a lot of great things, but I think the biggest thing that I've achieved was overcoming my adversity, 93 and 94. You know, those are the 2 years that I didn't play much, and, you know, people were writing me off, you know, felt like retiring, overcame them, and I'm a living example that you can rise above adversity.
What was it like playing in a World Series in the middle of an earthquake?
Well, I'll tell you, you know, I hear some people so many times, I've never lived in California. It's like, hey, you don't know when an earthquake's going to come. I'd rather live through a 30-second earthquake than 4 months of sub-freezing temperatures. But I was out there stretched on the third baseline, and all of a sudden, the earth started moving. I just felt like I was surfing a little bit. And then, you know, being born and raised in California, you go through earthquakes. You say, it's just an earthquake. We didn't realize the damage that it did, and it was unfortunate.
Let me show you another special moment you had earlier this year. Humble servant Mark McGwire. Did you ever dream, going to Damien High School back in California, that you would meet the Pope?
No. How could you dream about that? It's like, how could you dream about hitting 70 home runs? I've been very lucky and fortunate to have a lot of great things happen to me this winter, and that was one of them. I mean, I wish I could have sat down and talked to him as long as I'm talking to you, and you know, thank him for a lot of good things that have happened to me. But it was a real quick 15, 20 second kiss the ring, say hello, and you know, he's the busiest man in the world. You know, a lot busier than me. So it was just, I was just.
What did you feel when you touched him?
His presence was just, I mean, he was so clean looking. His hand was just flawless, and it's just, it was just his presence. It was an awesome thing, and I can see why people always say that.
The last time you signed your contract, you had a press conference where you said you would give $1 million a year of your income to help children who've been abused.
Right.
I want to show that press conference to you.
Let's just say that children have a special heart, a special place in my heart. And
Children have a special place in your heart.
yeah, well, I mean, let's face it, abuse is out there. People don't want to talk about it. You know, I'm in a great position right now to bring it to the forefront. And I mean, I did a wonderful PSA on sexual abuse the weekend before I hit 62. Spent all Thursday out there at the ballpark doing this commercial. And I tell you, you know, it's something that we have to address. because kids are our future. And there's too much abuse going on out there. I mean, you're seeing what's going on in these high schools today with all these young kids. It's not that they're waking up one morning and saying, let's go do something. There's something happening. There's a lot of anger and evilness that's stemming inside them because of what's actually or mentally. So we have to help them.
Let me show our audience that PSA, Mark McGwire.
Okay. If you are being sexually abused, don't be ashamed. Call this number for help. You don't have to give your name. This isn't a game. It's your life.
How did you get involved in this particular issue? Did you know people who had been abused?
Yeah, a very good friend of mine, who's my executive director, Allie Dixon, worked in a sexual abuse home. And, you know, she brought me there. And I started seeing what was happening. I mean, when you see a 3- and 4-year-old little boy or girl come walking through the door and, you know, they've been violated, it makes you sick. I mean, there's somebody out there doing that. And so when I signed my contract, I said, I want to do something for children. So I started my own foundation, and things are great. I mean, when I signed a deal with Yahoo, I'm going to have a website, McGwire'skids.yahoo.com, and it's going to be out there. There's going to be a ton of information on all kinds of abuse for children and adults, and so I encourage people to go there.
How many more years do you want to play baseball?
Oh, geez. I'd like to go to at least 40.
Which is how
Not
many?
40 more years. 40 years of age.
Which would be how many more years?
Probably 5 more years. I'd like to try that and see what happens. I mean, God willing, if my body holds up and things go right, we'll see what happens.
Then what?
Then I'm going to take a year off and have a summer vacation I haven't had since I was 12 years old, and then I'm going to get back into baseball. I want to teach. I want to teach some kids how to deal with adversity. And, you know, I've been on top of the game, and I've sure in the hell been on the bottom of the game. And I think I have a lot to offer.
Coach high school, little league, college?
Well, I don't know. College is intriguing. Minor leagues is intriguing. And then the big leagues is always intriguing. But I think today's kids aren't taught right. And I like to go out there and teach them.
We have Bill Bradley, Jack Kemp, Jim Bunning. Would Mark McGwire ever think about a career in politics?
No, thank you.
Never. Never, never, never.
No. I don't think so.
Why not?
I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea. Maybe an interviewer like you, that'd be all right.
Oh, you want my job?
No.
That's the end of this interview.
For the sports show. There we go.
Okay. Mark McGwire, we thank you very much for joining us. Have a happy, healthy season, and stay well, and
Thank
good
you.
luck.
Great.
And his bicep is 17 and a half, bigger than my neck. I'm not about to fight Mark McGwire for this chair. We'll be right back after this.